I see trees of green, red roses too. I seen them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Oh,
And
think
we are back.
we're getting into like some marriage season or something with that kind of song. What's going on with that?
All the feels, man. Just vibing, it's a great day to be alive. Sun is out here in Florida, man. Good vibes all around. Just happy to be here.
No, man. How's life been? What have you been up to?
It's good, man. Played some pickleball this weekend. Got in some runs. But yeah, big days coming up. So yeah, just happy with life right now, man. I was thinking about myself like on a run this weekend. I was like, man, like business is going great. Like my fitness and health is like the best it's ever been. Getting married in a month or so. Like I'm like, man, is this what peaking feels like? Then I'm like, no shit, like not yet. We still climbing, baby. But no, it's just one of those days where I was like, took a moment to kind of express some gratitude for myself. I feel like over the last couple of years, just been like, you're constantly in the weed of things, just grinding, grinding, grinding. And then I was just like, man, like I'm actually like really happy with kind of things are right now. Our mentees and go getters, man, they're crushing it. That always makes me so freaking happy and hyped as
Dude,
well too, man.
April has been the craziest update I think so far. Like when people recap their April, that shit just made me so happy. It was awesome. Like
Yeah.
so
So
many wins, huge jumps for some people. Like
mhm.
awesome.
Yeah, man. So it's just like everyone's winning. Like I feel like I'm winning, man. So it's good vibes all around, man. Good, great month, great month.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I feel like there's like kind of two big decisions that you make from a purchasing perspective, right? And it's like a car and a home. Granted, we're in New York City, so we're definitely not going to be, you know, going into a home anytime soon. But we've been looking at like upgrading the car because we have like an old school. Like I've had my Honda Accord now for 10 years.
It's gonna last another 10 years, right?
It will. But man, there's been a couple of like the lock stopped working, the batteries glitching, and I was just like looking at cars and I was like, wow, I feel like a freaking grown up. I gotta go car shopping. Never thought I would have to do that before in my life. So it's cool to be able to do that and be like, wow, I could afford this car. This is crazy.
What car we thinking about, man?
Well, I'm not trying to get into anything crazy. We have a 2015 Honda Accord, and you know how it is. I'm like, bro, we're definitely not buying a new car. It's the biggest ripoff ever.
Hmm?
Looking for like some extremely low mileage, like Volvo or Mazda
Yeah.
SUV. I like the Volvo XC90, and then like there's like the Mazda CX-70 or whatever, or CX-50. But I literally was like, ChatGPT, give me the most reliable, safest SUV you got in the year 2025, and I was like, boom, those two. I'm like, beautiful. But it was something crazy though. Did you know that Volvo has a goal of eventually in the future there will be no fatalities in a Volvo car?
Damn. I think that is a sick claim to have.
So the XC90, the Volvo car, there's been zero fatalities.
Damn.
That's crazy, right?
So what are like the selling features that they have that can help them boost that claim?
I don't know exactly. Haven't done a deep enough dive yet, but like it's
Yeah.
just that car and then the Mazdas are like some of the safest cars. There's definitely like something in the construction and other things, but there's like the technology, all those like features where like it brakes and all that stuff before like it hits something. But I was just like shocked. I was like, damn, Mazda made this. I remember I read in a book. I think it was like Simon Sinek Start with Why. He meant it was either that book or something else, and they mentioned how Mazda wanted to do that. I'm like, I can't believe they're actually doing it. That's crazy.
Damn. So when you do go and take a look at these Mazdas and stuff, you're gonna have to talk to a sales rep. And we have these car salesmen, right? And so how do you think that conversation is gonna go? Like how was that like when you got your first Honda Accord?
Oh, I don't even remember, dude. I think the Asian part of us. we kind of work in like groups, right? So like when I
Yeah.
got my Honda Accord, my uncle also got a Honda. So we went into the dealership. It's like, hey, you want to get a deal? Because we're two people that are looking
Two
to
for
buy.
one.
So you get a nice little 2 for 1. I'm not sure if that actually works. That's maybe something an Asian person makes up in their mind, but that's kind of our approach.
Yeah.
But I think a good car salesman would start off by figuring out, well, what do you need,
Why are
right?
you looking for a car in the first place?
Yeah. And I think a terrible one would be like, hey, let's get you in this brand new model. Let's get you in this SUV. I don't even know if you have a kid, but let's get you in this minivan, this Odyssey. So, today, Peter, first off, good work on that one. That was a good connection from the cars to the sales. We're going to be breaking down sales. And I don't know how it'll start. We're not going to be able to cover as much as we would like because, I think you could talk about sales for 5, 10, 15 hours.
We can have a whole separate podcast just on sales.
But let's break down to you. If we work from the beginning, what is the most important part of sales? Like, what do you start with?
I would say you have to understand that sales is service. And I think a lot of times physical therapists, when they transition into this cash pay model, right, they're always thinking like, oh man, like I don't want to come off sleazy, like, like the Mazda car salesman trying to push Andy into like the highest top end model. And that was something that I struggled with tremendously when I initially came into, the cash pay model, right? Big money mindset issues. I was like, man, I don't know if I would pay like $200 for this. Like, should I even be charging this, right? But I think one of the things that I slowly came to understand, and again, didn't happen overnight. Took me a couple months, couple years, even to really understand. Like, hey, if these people have a problem, right, and we have a solution, I should not feel bad about wanting to help these people, right? And so, at the end of the day, we have to sell somebody in order to be able to serve them and get them to the place that they want to be. And so, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that people need to overcome when they first transition into cash pay is just like understanding, hey, like it's okay for me to charge this amount in order for me to be able to help them. And just because I don't value this right amount doesn't mean that this person sitting in front of me doesn't value it the same or doesn't view it the same way.
Yeah, there's certain, even when you think about cars, right? Like some people go in and you got to think that certain things like luxury car dealerships exist. And those aren't practical. They're literally just there because they want to experience what luxury feels like. Whether that is like how smooth the ride is, whether that's just the finishes of the car, or maybe just a brand attached to the car, right? Same thing with like an Apple phone and a Samsung phone. An Apple phone does not have as many features and customizations as a Samsung phone, but you buy it for the simplicity, the brand. I felt like a lot of people did something similar with Tesla. It's like if you drove a Tesla, not now, like earlier, a couple of years back, people were like, wow, this guy is in the know, cares about the environment or whatever it is. But there is this thing with sales where you really got to figure out what the other person is looking for, right? And
Mhm.
then start to position yourself. What are some kind of opening things that you say, or like how do you interact with someone within a discovery call? Let's start there.
Yeah, I think regardless if it's a discovery call, or even if it's an evaluation, or if you're trying to sell somebody like a back-end membership or just anything in general, right? I like to kind of think of this overall general framework of I need to do my best to be able to understand where they are at and then where do they want to go. Then how large is that gap in between from where they are to where they want to go? The smaller that gap is, like the less likely the less likely they'll want to ask for some help, right? But if there's a pretty large gap from where they are to where they want to go, then and we have a solution for it, then we can most likely help them. But a lot of sales, especially that first part, right, the discovery, understanding where they are, the subjective. I'd really like to think about it as like, hey, like, can I be the question master? Right? Like I think a lot of times as physical therapists, we just have so much education and knowledge that we just want to be able to tell them like, oh, like this is why this isn't working immediately from the get-go. But can we have some like childlike curiosity and refrain from, educating in the first, part of that conversation and really just ask them a ton of questions to be able to understand like, well, why are they seeking out help now, right? How long has this been going on for? If this has been going on for a while now, like why are we seeking out help now versus, maybe 1 or 2 months before? What's changed? What's the urgency like? Right? How is being in that current situation? What are the emotions associated with all these things? And the deeper that we can go into understanding, the pains and emotions, how that situation makes them feel, and the better idea of like we can slowly start to understand like how is it that we're really able to help them. So I would say first part, like it's really all about figuring out like where are they at and can we even help them, right? Because I think a lot of times too, the deeper you do get into it, right, I think there's probably some times where it's a situation that we might not even be a good fit for them. Probably might need to refer them out, right? But it's like we really need to do our best to be able to understand their situation.
With the emotion side of things, like when you ask that, how do you know? Are you going like, dude, how does that make you feel, right? Or is it like how do you approach that question? Because I feel like that could be a hard question for people to ask if they've never asked that question before.
Yeah, no, it's exactly it. I think a lot of times and the first couple times I asked those like deeper emotion questions, like, hey, just curious, like, how does that make you feel? With me thinking of asking that question, I would get like super nervous. I was like, man, like, are they gonna feel like super weird that I asked them that? But a lot of times, if you are just like coming off like in within the conversation, and it's just a natural flow of conversation, and you're just asking it naturally after one single question, it comes off very, very genuine. So, giving you an example, it's like, if someone's been dealing with knee pain and they're telling you, hey, like I've been dealing with knee pain for, the last 2 years, haven't been able to work out. You really just repeat everything back to them. And it's like, hey, you've been doing all these things so far. Like, just curious, like, how does that make you feel not being able to work out over the last 2 years? And then they'll go deeper into expounding, hey, like, I feel like I haven't been myself. I feel like my stress, anxiety levels have risen tremendously over the last few years. I haven't been able to release that through the exercise and workout that I want to be able to do, but haven't been able to do for so long. And that's really where I feel like when you ask those deeper questions, it allows you to develop a deeper connection with the person in front of you. I think a lot of times too, whenever there is like family involved, right? It's like, hey, like, you're telling me you want to be able to play with your kids, and throw a football with your grandkids, but you haven't been able to. Like, I'm sorry to hear about that. Like, how's that made you feel not being able to do that over the last couple of years? And then they'll go even deeper into it. Right?
No, I love that. I think the main thing to think about, it's like, how does this question prepare you to create an offer if that person needs it, right? And I think oftentimes, especially in school, it's like you learn to ask a bunch of questions, but you don't necessarily know what that correlates to. And in a discovery call, and I think in most phases, until like you're actually working with someone, too many people try to start solving problems. Like, oh yeah, you've probably had
Yep.
like too much. You probably ramped up your mileage too quick, or like, yeah, it sounds like you might have a restriction here. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You can still kind of create this like mystery or allure. When you like, so when did this all start? And this all started when I had like an Achilles surgery, and then it became this. Achilles surgery, huh? Like you just kind of say Achilles surgery, kind of with a question mark, and then they break it down more. It's like, tell me a little bit about how that went, and you just keep mirroring them, and mirroring is essentially just like you say the last few words of the sentence with a
Yep.
question mark, and then they'll talk more. And your goal is to collect as much data as possible. But, I think mirroring in that regard to be inquisitive, but also mirroring in regard of like, ooh, something is wrong. Like,
Yeah.
someone's like, yeah, I've been dealing with like this ankle sprain injury for like 6 months. You're like, wow, 6 months? It's a long time. And they pause and then start to tell you some other things. But I think there's a lot that can be done in this phase to gather more information. And you don't even have to come up with a very special question. You just say the last few words of the sentence.
Yeah, I love the fact that you said, "Hey, mirroring." Right. A lot of times people are always wondering, like, "Oh man, like, what do I say next? What do I say next?" And a lot of times, if you just exactly repeat things that they said, and then you can even offer it back, like, "Hey, when you say this, what do you specifically mean by that?" And then they'll go off into even a little bit of a deeper explanation. A lot of times, I think as physical therapists, because we've seen so many different cases, like very similar, we basically just make assumptions. And I think that's one of the worst things that we can do as a person in front of them, just like assume a specific thing has happened to them or assume that they're thinking about it in a certain way. And we kind of make decisions or judgments based off of that. But if we can, you know, um, address everybody in a very unique scenario and just, ask these genuine questions and approach them differently every single time, then I think it will go a very, very long way to help that person understand, like, hey, like this person genuinely cares about me.
Yeah, and there's like there's something to like listening to someone for an extended period of time when they haven't gotten that service elsewhere, right? So if you're a one-on-one practitioner, chances are you're gonna work with people that have been in insurance models and they've had like 5 minutes to get their questions answered. And the research shows that's like every single year it decreases. I think a couple of years ago it's like you got 13 seconds before a doctor interrupts you. I think it's like 8 seconds now. So here's like your time to like really shine and show that you're actually listening. And one of my favorite things to do when listening is to it does two things. You literally summarize what they've said and then ask for their validation, right? Or be like, hey, correct me, let me know if I'm hearing this right, but it sounds like X, Y, Z, it's blah, 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 whatever it is. One, it lets the other person know that, yes, this person actually hears me, but two, you get to repeat their pain points to them again, which is huge, right? So, like, let me get this straight. It sounds like you've been dealing with this for X amount of years, and you've been going through this, you tried this, and none of these things are working. And it feels like you're only reaching out to us because, we look more performance based, and that's something that you've been missing. And it feels like this is your last shot to get back to doing what you love. Does that sound right? And the fact that you get to repeat their pain points, it almost hurts a little bit more, which is good because when you create, the gap, that's when someone really has a need for what you do.
For sure. Um, a lot of times there's a very big difference between us telling them what is wrong with it versus them coming to their own realization and understanding, like, hey, this is like what's occurring and this is what I need to do moving forward. And so a lot of times it's like, we're coming to them, it's like, hey, like this is what's wrong with your knee and this is what you need to do moving forward. If you don't do it, it's like it's gonna continue to get worse, right? But if we can ask questions to help them come to that realization and understanding themselves, then it immensely magnifies like the truth of it. I think, man, I can't think of the quote right now, but it's like it's good. It's something along the lines of like, hey, if it comes from us, like it may not be true, but if it comes from them, it must be true. So if they verbalize it out loud and they hear themselves saying it, then it's like they believe in it a lot more versus like if it comes from us. And so the only way we can do that is by asking strategic questions that leads them to the right answers that we want them to say so that they can hear it from themselves.
Yeah, and the one thing that you can do that really, really develops trust is like when you listen to someone so well and you can summarize their problems better than them, and you get them to say yes or exactly, right? You can hear it on the phone. It's like they say yes or exactly, and their shoulders finally drop and they let their guard down. Because
Yeah,
that's all it is, right? Sales is developing trust, and you're utilizing that trust to help people make better decisions. People are coming to you, and if you can help them committing to working with you is a smart decision. But you can't help them make those smart decisions until you build that trust. And they're just constantly asking questions, summarizing, asking if that was correct, and making sure that there's a match for all of these things.
for sure. One of the things that I've been working with my team on over the last couple of months is trying to kind of pinpoint common objections that we've been getting after the pitch and proactively addressing it in discovery, right, or in the subjective. So a lot of times if at the end people are like, oh, like, yeah, that sounds good, but I need to think about it, or hey, like it's not that bad, maybe I'll just continue doing that, doing what I'm doing a little bit more. We can ask that and flush that out beforehand in the discovery, right? We can increase urgency, increase timing of like why they should move forward now, getting their commitment beforehand in the subjective now it's like at the end we can basically turn around and be like, hey, well, listen, Andy, this is kind of what you told me earlier, right? Like, is this like still correct? Right. So that's kind of like level two of like sales that we're working on now. So in terms of flushing some of these out, right, gauging their level of commitment to that goal, right? So it's like we'll use someone if we're dealing with knee pain example, right? Hey, like you've been dealing with knee pain for the last 2 years, and you want to be able to run a 5K again. It's like, just so you're aware, like this is like a pretty big goal, right, compared to kind of where you're at now. And so I'm just curious, like, how important is it for you to be able to achieve this goal, right? How committed are you to be able to achieve this goal now? And then whatever they say back to you, now you ask them a deeper question. It's like, well, why is that? And then now they can kind of continue to expound a little bit deeper on that as well too. Um, one on timing and urgency that I love, that I think has helped us out tremendously, is like, they've been dealing with this situation for quite a bit of time now. It's like, just curious, like, how much longer are you willing to continue going on like this for, not being able to insert XYZ end goal? Right. And a lot of times it's like they give you really, really good answers that are like pretty deep, that now you can really create some sort of sense of urgency from them, because they're hearing their answers to themselves, and they're like, yeah, like I've been dealing with for XYZ now. I don't think I want to be able to stay in this current situation for much longer now. And when the time does come to pitch, it's like, cool, awesome, like this is a solution. Let's get you moving forward.
And you can almost be like, if it like, listen, our evaluation is this rate, and if you paid this much to get clarity on the situation, do you feel like it'd be worth it? Because you kind of mentioned this earlier, and I want to make sure that we can provide that.
Yeah.
And you can always say something along the lines of like, I think of the approach like sell the way you buy, right? So if I was on the other side, it's like, what I'm not going to want to commit to something long term. So I could be like, hey, listen, we're not asking you to commit long term. All I want is for you to come in and see if what we do really feels like the solution for your needs. And based off of everything that you're telling me, and like even what you said when you said like this is why you reached out, I really think it does make sense to schedule that first session.
Yeah. I love the fact that you're talking about hinging the sale price to the value, because that's really what it is at the end of the day. Is like some sort of transaction occurs when the person sitting in front of us feels like the value of what they are paying is higher than the price that we are asking. And so if we can anchor a lot of the price around the end solution and the end outcome and the end goal that they haven't been able to do so long, versus like letting them know, like, yeah, it's like this is how much it is for physical therapy versus the desired outcome, then that helps tremendously. Because yeah, it's like, like $5,000 is expensive. Well, compared to what? Right? It's like, is it expensive compared to like a McLaren? Like, what is it expensive compared to like a pair of glasses? Like, well, what is it when you say expensive? Like, what do you mean by that? Compared to what? Right? And so if we can kind of help them see the value of, hey, like me not being able to do this, goal that I want to do so bad that I haven't been able to do for so long, like that is worth it. Then that is really when it doesn't matter like what the price is. Like people will pay for that as long as the value is there. Right? But if the value isn't there, then it's like it doesn't matter if it's $5,000, if it's $5. Like why would they buy? Right? It's not important to them. Urgency isn't there. They don't care. It's like, yeah, I'm okay continuing to live on the way that I currently am living.
Yeah, for sure. I and I always think about this, right? Because like if you're a car enthusiast, or I always try to think about it this frame set. If you're a car enthusiast that doesn't necessarily prioritize your health, a McLaren for like 100K is cheap, but then 5,000 for like a full plan of care to get out of pain or achieve your fitness goals is expensive because you don't prioritize it, right? It's not like something that's important to you, and the more important it is something, you'll see the value in it, and that's what we want. When someone calls you on any given day, 20% of those people buy no matter what you say. 20%
Mm-hmm.
of people are just price shopping. They will never buy. And it's 60% that are kind of on the fence. And our goal there is kind of like, how do we help that 60% make better sales decisions? Buying decisions, right? In the cases that we can help them. And that's also literally the reason why we're doing so much discovery, is because if you can't help someone, don't sell them something, right? Like that's the main thing. And once you really think about that mindset, I think it lets you feel a little bit more comfortable learning everything else.
Yeah, I think one of the things that helped me tremendously as well to kind of overcome that like sales mindset belief is the fact that the other solutions that people have out there, if they don't move forward with us, it is 10 times more expensive, right? If we think of, if they don't get their knee pain fixed, right? Like what happens? Okay, well, it'll probably get worse. If they really don't do anything, potentially might progress down the line of injections, surgeries. Maybe they go to like another insurance physical therapy. You all know how that goes, right? So it's like right now, like we are the best solution for them. And so I have to do everything in my power to help them understand, like, hey, if I don't move forward with these guys, like that's it. Like there is no other solution. And so I think part of that too is really just understand like what we're selling isn't snake oil. Like the stuff that we are offering in terms of our service, like it truly works and it's life changing. And that's why like I have absolutely no problem like selling what we offer, because you truly have to believe in it, right?
Yeah. To piggyback on something you said before, it's like level two sales, right? I think level one sales is like you kind of learn sales and you learn how to handle objections. But I think an even better salesperson is someone that doesn't have to handle objections because they answered them before, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And I always think about this like Charlie Weingroff quote. It's like the best way to help athletes learn how to coordinate movements under fatigue is to make sure they don't get there in the first place,
Yep.
right? To make sure that like they develop the aerobic system so they don't know what it's like to feel fatigue during the match. And it's the same thing. The best way to handle an objection is to make sure there isn't one. Like, if you can take care of all of these things before, I think you do a way better job of, moving someone along this journey. The one thing I always think about is, anytime that you keep getting an objection that comes up, it's probably more your marketing than anything else, right? Is it like changing something on your website, changing something in your messaging, changing something on the content that you post? If you're constantly getting people that don't want to commit to long-term plans of care, are you creating content that's like, hey, 3 ways to melt away your back pain? Because chances are that's what they're going to come to you for. So like whatever you market, you're going to attract. And I think nowadays it's better to play the long game. People are smart. Like consumers are becoming way more educated. That's why I started talking about like longevity. That's why I talk about how like, hey, people don't want to just train for today. They want to train for the rest of their life. So the more you directly put these things into your marketing, the more that type of person you want to attract.
I love that. I think another big thing too is your confidence and how they portray like your ability to be able to help them. And because I think people basically buy off of, hey, like it's got to be a problem that they want fixed. If it is a problem that they do want fixed, from there, it's like trying to figure out like who's the right provider, who's going to be able to get me there. And so we can create the urgency in the discovery, but then when it does come time to explain the program moving forward or the plan, the pitch, tonality is huge, right? So it's like, can we come off in a way that's very, very confident that they feel like, hey, like, wow, Andy like has this shit dialed in. He's explaining this in a way that makes so much sense and so much clarity to me that I know exactly what's going to occur from week 1, where I am currently now, to week 12, and how over these next 12 weeks, like he's going to get me there. I think a lot of times too, like at the very beginning, I was, in terms of like confidence and how I was presenting it, just didn't come off the right way. Like, yes, I knew what progressions I was going to, take them through over the next couple of weeks, but the way that I came off and the way that I presented it just didn't necessarily resonate with them. And a lot of it comes off of tonality and, pacing as well too, right? So it's like, even if we're not necessarily too sure of like, hey, what's going on? It's like, hey, maybe it's like a gray zone. Like in their head, they have to know that, wow, like this person knows exactly what's going on with me, and I am confident that he's able to get me from point A to point B. And so one of the things that I coach my like staff PTs on is like, hey, it's okay if you don't get it perfectly right on the first try, on the first eval, right? It's like you don't have to, but what you do need to do is be able to portray it for them in a way that they really believe, like, hey, like over the next 12 weeks, like we're able to get you to, the end goal. Because if they believe it and they can see the plan moving forward, now, sweet, you've got 12 more weeks to really figure everything out, and then be able to get them there.
Yeah, you might be doing all the right things, but you're not communicating the importance of everything.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is creating an actual like, I don't want to say, for lack of better words, a performance, right? Like you have to be able to go in and, you kind of said like progressions and regressions. Like you might be talking to someone through progressions and you might say to them like, hey, can you see like how like your inability to do this is going to prevent you from doing this quicker or faster under more load? And they agree, then yes, they're starting to admit that they have a problem or there is a gap or a deficit. So it's not just laying out the progressions, but showing them that like, I can totally validate why you haven't gotten better, right? And part of sales, especially once you're in assessment, is just being a really good physical therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can totally see why you haven't gotten better. You've been doing a lot of these higher level things, but you can't take care of these very basic stuff that everyone should be able to do to be a healthy runner, to be able to play soccer, etc., whatever the sport is. It's like, hey, you are doing a ton of cuts and all these like high speed drills, but like you're having like pain doing a lateral squat. So the fact that you can't do this right now in a slow, controlled manner just means that all the things that are more dynamic and you can demonstrate it in front of them are going to be very provocative. And I think people can start to really, really see the visualization when you do the movement in front of them. Like this is probably not the discovery, but more towards like the actual assessment and eval.
Yeah. Especially with the fact that, hey, like you're a tremendous physical therapist, you've got really great clinical skills. Now you can actually speak with conviction. And because you know for sure, like, hey, this is something that I've seen 100 times before. This is something that I can 100% be able to help them out with. And so you're able to like speak with that conviction, and people can totally understand and like feel off that energy and vibe, right? I think, yeah, it's like to be good at sales, right? You really have to believe in your product. Which again, like for you, for example, you have a really great close rate, right? Because you're like a tremendous clinician. You're able to solve a ton of complex cases that not a lot of other people are able to solve. And so when people come in, like they can feel and understand that type of energy. Um, there's a there's a book called it's by Grant Cardone. It's called what was it Sell or Be Sold. But in that book, he basically talks about like you have to become so sold, like so convinced and so committed to your like company and your product that you would believe that it would be absolutely terrible for the buyer or the eval in front of you not to do business and go elsewhere. And so it's like if you can have that and speak to that level of conviction, then it's like for sure people will get results with you. And they can really understand and feel that as well too. But it's like if I'm trying to sell a product that I don't believe in, it's like how can I speak with that conviction? All right, so a lot of it comes from your own belief in yourself as well as your own clinical skill set to be able to get them from point A to point B.
The the product thing is crazy because like it really does. That's why it's so hard to like we have like new grads that reach out and I'm like, dude, I can't. Like, you've got to like for me to feel confident in like onboarding a new grad in a GGC, they must have done some exceptional internships and they must have had some sort of like one-on-one experience, whether that's like personal training, they've been doing like group fit something for an extremely long period of time. Because I've had people reach out to me before and they're part of other mastermind groups and they're asking me things like, hey, can you help me with my assessment, or like, hey, what should I be like prioritizing during my assessment? And so I'm like, bro, you've put the cart before the horse. You've been trying to learn business skills but you don't have anything worth selling. And Alex Ramosi talks about this a lot. It's like the first couple of years of your career, like, don't expect to make a ton of money, and you should really just be focused on dialing your skill set, learning as many skills, creating as much leverage as possible. And in the beginning, leverage as a physical therapist is just getting really, really good at what you do. And once you do that, like, it opens a lot of other opportunities because one, whether you decide to take a clinical director role, being really good at what you do allows you to mentor other physical therapists. If you start on your own, that also allows you to leverage that skill set for yourself. So like almost everything I would say starts off with getting really, really good clinically.
Yeah, I love that. Like you have to have a really good product in order for you to actually, convince yourself like, hey, like I actually have the confidence that I've been able to see all these tremendous results before and all these previous clients, and I've refined my skill set so much that I know like anybody else coming in, I can 100% be able to help them. Because yeah, like if I wasn't confident in like our clinic's ability to be able to help people, it's like how am I gonna feel confident in like pitching a 3 to 5K plan of care when I don't necessarily know if they're able to get the results that they're paying for, right? Like client success is everything.
What is like when you're going into like your framework, right? Like, obviously we have like a discovery, the pain points, creating the gap. But like when you actually handle like an objection, like what is your general framework for something like that?
Yeah, general framework is you got to isolate it. So typically we want to agree first and then isolate it, so that way they don't like bounce around from let me think about it to spouse to budget. All right. So say for example, like what's like a give me like an common objection.
I got to think about it.
Cool. Totally understand, right? Like so you agree with them. Hey, totally understand. You have to think about it, right? It's totally normal. Um, just curious, like when you say think about it, like what do you specifically mean by that?
Well, I just don't know if this is like, I want to try kind of some other spots and I want to get a lay of the land.
Cool. So lay of the land, understanding a little bit about like, hey, what options are out there. So I guess backtracking a little bit, if we understand, hey, they have a couple different options, we want to prevent that from occurring beforehand. So making sure value is there beforehand. So, hey, does this program make sense for you? Right? Yes, it makes sense. Do you feel like this is something that will be helpful for you? Right? Yeah, totally 100%. Cool. So if they have value and confidence all checked off, then ideally we shut the door on something like, hey, like uncertainty in the plan. But say like it's a objection such as like hey, like I gotta talk to my spouse, right? So after you agree with them, totally understand, hey, is there anything else aside from speaking with your spouse that would prevent you from moving forward? Right. So from there, now we isolate that objection. So now they can't like bounce around from like, hey, like I gotta talk to my spouse too. Well, you know what? Like this program sounds good, but like I want to check with a couple other clinics out there because there's so many different objections that they can throw at you. Right? It's like, hey, spouse, let me think. Budget. Let me check with XYZ. And so if we can really just isolate that one single one, now we can walk down the pathway of like, okay, cool, like let's try and figure this out. So we a lot of times when it comes to objection, we have to figure out, okay, is it more of like a belief one, or is it more just of something like logistics? If it's something like logistics, such as, hey, like let me check my budget, or hey, the decision maker isn't here. Now you go down that route and you play it out. So it's like, cool, to understand, like, got to check our budget. If it is within the budget, or if we do need to check with our spouse and our spouse is on board, awesome, we can now move forward with it. But and then from there, you want to play out like, hey, just curious, like, what happens if they do say no? Or just curious, like, what happens if this is outside of budget? Like, what will you do then? So you play it out. So to help them really understand, like, hey, like, there really isn't necessarily like a think about it. Like, we have all the information here in front of us to make an informed, appropriate decision.
So in the case of like, hey, I just got to think about it, and you're like, if it says yes, then it's perfect. But if they say no, yeah, what if they do say no?
What will you do then? How will you be able to get back to XYZ insert goal? Are we just going to give up on that?
No.
So then, if not, then what is the best decision we need to make here then to finally get you back to insert XYZ goal again? Yeah. So a lot of times with decision maker, or even if it's budget, we want to help them understand like, hey, this problem is so big, even if their spouse does say no, they would move forward regardless because of how important it is for them. Spouse, I will say 100% is by far the most difficult thing to overcome, because if it is a true like decision maker that isn't there in the room with them, they aren't able to do anything about it. So like we have a pelvic floor physical therapist, and she sees a lot of like new moms that come in and everything, right? And a lot of times they're stay at home, and the true financial decision maker like just isn't in the room with them. And a lot of times they really can't do anything unless their spouse is down. But it's just so hard for them to be able to effectively communicate all the information and the value that they've seen in the session to their spouse. So a lot of times, if we can get this other decision maker in the room as well too, then we can effectively communicate all the information for them that they need in order to make a good decision moving forward. Yeah.
For sure. I like that objection aspect, and that was like when I started like studying it, was one of my favorite aspects of it, because it's like, I think naturally we want to start to explain why we're right opposed to agreeing, right?
Yeah.
So like, what's the importance of agreeing?
So it just helps us diffuse the situation, right? So it's like if you're recommending something and they're coming at it with a different angle, I like to kind of think of the scenario. It's like we're literally on the same team as them, right? So we're pulling up next to them. We're on the same team as them. We want to help them figure out how can we overcome this hurdle or this scenario in order for them to get to this end goal. And the only way you do that is to agree with them first, diffuse the situation a little bit, and then help them rewire and reframe kind of that mindset a little bit to help them understand like, hey, like I have all the information in front of me in order to make an informed decision to like move forward to get to my end goal. Yeah. One of the things that I like, big learning curve was when I first really got into like sales. I was like, man, it's all about objection handling. It's all about objection handling, being able to kind of come up with these like witty one-liners. But a lot of times, like if you can really help them see the value in it and kind of close the door on all these different objections, right? We have all these different objections that potentially might occur: urgency, timing, spouse, finance, other clinics, other options, maybe continue doing the stuff that they have currently been doing, if we can close the door on all of those, right? I'm really make sure, hey, like they understand and feel like this program is the right thing for them before we even price shop. That way, when we do finally price drop, the only thing that we need to work through is a logistics one, and it would just be a finance one. Right? It's like, hey, cool. Like, if it really is something that's financial, you like me, you like the program. There's nothing really else preventing you from moving forward. Let's figure something out. All right, like let's put together a payment plan. Like let's figure something out in order for you to overcome this, financial hurdle, so that you can finally get back to XYZ again. But a lot of times, like you really have to make sure that the value is there for them to like want to go through kind of like customizing something from a payment plan standpoint in order to move forward. Because if they don't feel like the value is there, right, like why am I going to pay $3K? It's like I'm just going to say, hey, it's too expensive because my value perception of the plan that's $3K isn't there. Right? I don't think it's a $3K problem. I think I can get this fixed elsewhere for cheaper.
Yeah. No, I love that aspect of it because like even the what you said, the tonality of it, right? Of like, hey, let's just figure something out. It's like it's so much of that same team. Like we're in this together. Like let's just figure something out.
Yeah.
There's so much to tone that allows people to feel like at ease, and that's such a miss part. Like you can have all the sales scripts and all the stuff in the world, but like if you don't work on like your language and your tone,
Yeah.
all of those things kind of fall flat.
Yeah. I like to think maybe two different pacing strategies, right? So when you are potentially helping them navigate some sort of objection, or when you're in the discovery, like I will intentionally really, really slow my tone down and take like intentional pauses, like, and I'll kind of drop my voice and tonality, like really slow and low like this, and try and like a little bit be more kind of empathetic and kind of slower. But when it comes to like presenting a plan that I'm super confident about, like you got to like increase tonality, you got to increase the pacing of it. So it's just understanding like little nuances like that help the entire like sales process like tremendously. Yeah. Because like,
Yeah.
can you imagine like trying to like navigate like an objection, and you're coming off like super strong, super pushy, and that's where I think a lot of times like people kind of have that like common misconception of like sales is that like that's car salesman, right? Where it's just like boom, 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 really, 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 really fast. Right?
Yeah.
But in reality, that should only be the case when you're describing the plan in front of them and how confident you are that you're able to help them get to the XYZ goal. A lot of times when it's like coming next to them and figuring out, cool, like let's figure something out. It's a lot slower. It's a lot more calm.
Oh man, I think that was a solid little riff on sales. Or probably maybe we'll do another one. We'll
Let's make a
see.
series, yeah. That's what
Yeah,
I
but
do about all day.
yeah, because I was like, man, we only got to touch up on like one or two topics. But guys, first off, we gotta say thank you. We went from 20 to 24 5-star reviews. That is a 20% increase. Like that's amazing. So
Killer.
for the support, a couple of you guys have reached out, and we're like, hey, listen to the podcast. I'm one of the 5-star reviewers. If there's things that you guys want to learn about, we're in a service mindset. You know what I mean? Like we just want to make sure that if you're taking 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes out of your day to listen to us, you're getting a ton of value. So don't be shy. Nothing is off the table. Like let us know how we can deliver more value for you. No pun intended with Peter Yu. But Peter, any last words?
No, just get out there and serve, guys. That's really it at the end of the day. We're in the service-based industry. Got to be able to sell in order to serve. So keep getting after it, guys.
Yep. Eventbrite page is going to be coming up soon for our event this summer. So, just follow us at Go Getters Coaching on Instagram. You'll have everything there. If you're in a newsletter, you'll get some messages there. And if you're not in a newsletter, bro, we have the best newsletters. And I only say that because I write them. You know the vibes. But guys, appreciate you. We got so many things in the works, and keep getting after it. And I just had to say, I didn't say this in the beginning, Peter, you're getting better at singing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I've been practicing weekly. I have this whole hour opportunity once a week to spout something off the riff. So practice makes perfect, man.
Oh man, let's get it, guys. Take it easy. Enjoy your week, and hey, keep getting after it. Peace.
Cool. See you guys.